Hello, Tracksters, and welcome to another Track versus Track where we rank the tracks of an album, sometimes chosen by a guest, sometimes chosen by us. And our guest is holding it right now. I'm, again, left without a copy. Matt has a copy to make up for mine. You know Matt, you know me, I'm Jacob. Our guest, and I have to say it because there's one viewer, at least one viewer, who's waiting for Matt to say it. Go ahead, Matt. You
It's Bob Russ from last season.
Hey, Jensen, what's up?
Is the popcorn ready?
There you go.
Okay, now that we're done with the inside jokes. Russ, you picked the Allman Brothers' "Eat a Peach." Why did you pick this record?
Hey, way to start it off. So before I even get into that, I wanted to say a couple things to you two. So first of all, these have been really good. I've really enjoyed watching them. It's been a lot of fun, just the connection that you guys have with each other. It's awesome. I just know like life gets busy, so I really appreciate that you guys take the time to watch them. And then my last note was I was going to talk about late night, but we already talked about that, so we'll move on. So why
We're
did
old college buddies? That's all the outsiders need to know. Yeah,
exactly,
Eat a Peach.
Exactly. Yep. So why did I pick Eat a Peach? When you guys first reached out and allowed me to choose the album, I was just kind of thinking back, like what albums, first of all, mean a lot to me and kind of like have been around my whole life. And so that got me thinking about my dad's garage and just kind of like, what did I hear when I was growing up? For me, that was like Ronnie Millsap, Joni Mitchell, Fleetwood Mac. My dad, one of the bands my dad listened to that doesn't always fall into that like classic rock radio station genre is Rare Earth. If you haven't listened to much Rare Earth, give them a chance. Yep. Steve Miller Band, like big time Steve Miller Band fans. My dad, I'm passing that on to my kids. But the biggest, like the number one band that I remember from my dad, just like listening to the stuff that he listened to, is the Allman Brothers. And so for me, Eat a Peach is kind of where it's at. I went through kind of an Allman Brothers phase in college a little bit. I remember when I lived in the basement, I would use one of our roommate, Matt, I would use his record player and listen to Midnight Rider. That's what got me going in the mornings. That's what got me out of bed. And then the summer after my junior year of college, I did an internship in Denver, Colorado for the summer. And listen to the Allman Brothers all the way out. I'd listen to it. I remember listening to Eat a Peach a lot on my drive into the internship every morning. Like I have this very clear memory of listening to Blue Sky and kind of coming up on like Colorado Boulevard kind of thing. And that summer, my parents the Allman Brothers happened to be at Red Rocks, got the poster up here. They were at Red Rocks that summer with string cheese. So my sister and I went kind of for my birthday as like a gift from my parents kind of thing. So it was real, just I got a lot of history with the album. So that's those are the reasons. That's why I picked it.
I'll go first before I let Matt talk about, because he'll probably have more to say. When you picked this is a total blank slate for me. I knew very little about the Allman Brothers. I knew they were roughly the inspiration of the film Almost Famous, and that someone died making a film about them in Austin, Texas. That's literally all I knew. It's called Midnight Rider. I don't think it ever got finished. And also, I kind of assumed they were jammy. This is the closest record I have. I'm always turned around and zoom. I don't know which way I'm pointing if I'm pointing at American Beauty. I have one Dead album. So jam music isn't really my thing. So I was like, oh, this is going to be a chore. I like this record. I have one in the mail. It didn't come in time to record it. But I'll get into some of my struggles with jam music maybe when we get to that. But Matt, what's your history?
Well, Russ, you remember this. There was a band that I followed religiously in the late 90s through all of work, the time that we were in college, even up until, I kind of stopped following them in 2010. The band is Fish, right? And it's a band that I don't talk about very much. And for whatever reason, I've become too much of a music snob to even acknowledge. No, I still like them. But I was really big into the jam band scene. And of course, the Allman Brothers and the Grateful Dead that's where they draw inspiration from.
Mm-hmm.
Are the Allman Brothers a jam band or are they Southern rock? I mean, they're both, right?
Mm-hmm.
So probably my earliest experience with the Allman Brothers would be, when I was 14, 15, kind of starting to discover music on my own. My parents were not fans of this style of music. As I've said on earlier videos, my dad liked Barbra Streisand and show tunes. And yeah, I had to come by this honestly. And I got into the Southern rock thing for a summer, I think, probably like freshman, sophomore year. So I was listening to Skynyrd, which of course they have that great, is it One from the Road? Is that their famous live album? Eat a Peach, Fillmore, obviously. These two albums are very closely connected. And we'll talk about that when we go through the tracks. But I just really, really dug it. And, becoming a keyboardist in a band, Greg Allman and his as a singer and a keyboardist, organ and singer, like there's so much to draw inspiration from. Damn it.
It's only a matter of time for that to happen. That's the first time that's happened since we recorded. Oh, has it? Never while you're talking. So we don't hear it.
And actually, I'm very light on the props for this episode. I usually have a lot more. But what a guy to draw inspiration from as an organist and a singer, because I mean, we'll talk more about that, but that's kind of my background with it. I hadn't listened to this album in years though. As a matter of fact, this particular LP I bought at a garage sale right when I started collecting vinyl, and it's got the little cutout notch in there, but it's in, mint condition. No ring wear on the front or anything like that. Beautiful gatefold. I mean, look at that.
Oh. Russ, you said you don't even own a record player, right? But
Correct.
You still own this record.
Oh, yeah.
It means that much to you. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And I also think, one of the things I thought maybe you'd touch on, Matt, is just how iconic the album cover is. I mean, this is one of those where I guess I feel like I was doing a little reading up on the album and, in preparation for the show. And that's one of the things that got brought up frequently is just how a piece of art, it is type of thing. And I think it is one of those that, when you, especially in college, when when you go into a house and they've got this vinyl on the wall, or when you're looking through somebody's records, when they've got this one, it kind of says something about that person. Oh yeah, I can't wait till you get it, Jacob.
Yeah.
It's something.
Lots
to
of
look
mushrooms. I wonder what they're hinting at. Oh, there's a watermelon. What a twist.
It's very fruit based.
All right. You mentioned the dichotomy. I don't know if it's really a dichotomy. You mentioned the jam band. You mentioned the Southern rock. I think track number 1, just getting right into it. Ain't Wasting Time. Is it No More? Ain't Wasting Time No More. That's a double negative. What are they trying to teach the children? Falls into the Southern rock category. And in general, I like the songs with lyrics more than the songs without lyrics. And this is a damn good song, actually. It's in my top 3, so I can't say where it's ranking, but it's just a good, solid rocker to start the album on. It's not, I think, the perfect distillation of what they do. So it's not my number 1, but it's my top 3. Anybody else have something they want to say about Ain't Wasting Time No More?
I'll share my top. I was going to say my top 3 as well. Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, continue, Russ. I'll pick up after you run.
I wanted to. I just want to read the first. I don't know if it's the full verse or if it's just a phrasing. But this is how the album kicks off. Last Sunday morning, the sunshine felt like rain. The week before, they all seem the same. With the help of God and true friends, I've come to realize I still have 2 strong legs and even wings to fly. So I ain't a wasting time no more, because time goes by like hurricanes and faster things. I just love it. Starting off the album with that, it's we've had some family stuff going on recently, just like health things and stuff like that, and it just really is like hitting me in a different way than it had in the past. Where it's like I ain't wasting time no more. I love it. It's in my top 3.
Top 3 for me too, and of course, I think you guys are aware of this, and hopefully if our audience is, I'll give them a brief little background on this album. So this was recorded partially while Duane Allman was alive, and it was finished after his tragic motorcycle accident. And that song was one of the songs that he does not appear on. Actually, the studio tracks, I think in general, he's not on any of them. And this is Greg Allman's homage to his brother who died at 23 years old. Duane Allman was only 23. And it's crazy because Duane Allman, not only was he prolific with the Allman Brothers, but Derek and the Dominoes, with Clapton and just a bunch of other projects. He had his hands in a lot of musical projects and was so influential, but he was only 23 years old. And he did not get to see this album released. So a lot of the songs lyrically are based on, tributes to Duane. And yeah, it's a top 3 for me. Absolutely. A great way to start off the album. Love it.
Does anyone want to speak about track number 2, Melissa?
That's not track number 2.
Oh, shit. Track number 2 is Les Bres. Do you have to say it in French? Les Bres in A minor. How would you say it, Matt?
Les Bres in A minor.
Les Bres?
Yeah, Les Bres. Les Bres in A minor.
Les Bres.
It's
Les Bres.
I'm curious
where
you guys have this one ranked. I'm curious where you guys have this one.
Okay.
Do you want to start, Jacob?
I'll just get to it. The instrumentals in general are near the bottom of my list. And the problem is, this song, once it starts to become a song, I like it. But it takes 3 minutes before it becomes a song. And it's not just feedback, bang, and like art rock. And then I would try and sing the instrumental part, the melody, but I would probably accidentally turn it into a Saturday morning cartoon theme if I went do 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 do. Would become Inspector Gadget if I tried to sing it too long. Yeah, exactly. It sounds cooler than that. But still, it's number 9 for me, just because the instrumental tracks. And I'm going to be honest, the bottom half of my list doesn't make any sense. And I've been looking at it, and I'm like, it doesn't make sense. Why do I have it like this? But there's just a couple rules I didn't want to. There's just some things I didn't want to do, and it just messed up my list. But it has to be that way because of just things I'll get to. But of the instrumentals, how many tracks are on here? Is it 9?
9.
So it's my last track. I guess I really don't like that first half of the song then.
Well, hey, that's a good segue. It was also number 9 for me.
Okay. All right.
And it took me a minute to figure out what I was going to do with that track. Here's my thoughts on it. Number 1, it just never gets there for me. I know, Jensen, great rendition, by the way. That was good because that's it, which is awesome. It gets there too late, and it doesn't stay there for long enough for me. So that was the big thing. I also felt like it was out of place as the second track on the album. This might be getting a little too nitpicky, but I was listening to it this morning, and I just started the album at the beginning again one last time. And what I noticed was, without touching the volume, once Ain't Wastin' Time No More was done, it took 20 full seconds before I could actually hear the music again on Les Bres. And I was just like, no, that's too much. You're killing the mood. For Ain't Wastin' Time No More to be number 1, and we're just going, that's why it did it for me. Yeah. I just felt like it was out of place.
Matt, it sounds like you have to defend it.
Top 3, man. Top 3, baby. Top 3 for me. Well, here's the thing. While I agree that it takes 3.5 minutes actually to get started, which is completely unnecessary, I don't hold it against the song though, because those 3.5 minutes that precede the actual song, it's just nothing. It's white noise to me. I don't hold that against the song, because when the actual song kicks in, if it had any kind of melodic idea whatsoever, I would consider that part of the song, but it's just ambient noise almost. It's like people tuning their guitars and stuff like that. It's nothing.
It should be track 8 then. Track 8. I think it should be track 8.
Yeah.
Not ranked. Not ranked. I just mean,
I'm with you on that too. No, I think you guys made a lot of valid points, and it shouldn't be track number 2. Right. It does not sequentially go well from the first song. However, I didn't talk about this before we started talking about whether it's jam band or Southern rock, because this is the song that doesn't incorporate either of those genres. This is Santana-esque
You're not selling me on that.
This
Doesn't make it any better.
Don't get your head out of the
Is that what you're kind
Santana.
of saying? You're kind of saying it's like a little jazzier?
Get your Santana out of the Rob Thomas smooth era, okay?
Okay.
Get your Santana head in 1969 Woodstock.
That's fair. Okay.
And Soul Sacrifice, and that heavy Hammond organ with the distortion, almost like Deep Purple. I mean, that organ on this song almost sounds like Deep Purple, super distortion. And Dickie Betts playing like in unison, an octave above the organ, is so tasty. And then they each get their turn to, it's basically like I'll play a minute and a half of organ, and let's see if you can top that, Dickie Betts. And then he plays a ripping minute and a half, and then you got Oakley on the bass, just doom, 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 and you got all the, because Allman Brothers, like the Grateful Dead, have two drummers, so you got all this percussion flying everywhere. It's an absolute assault on your ears. And honestly, so I've been listening to this album daily for the past like 2 weeks as I bike.
Good for you.
And when this song kicks in at that 3.5 minute mark, my legs get like an extra shot of adrenaline, and I pump those legs for 4 minutes as that song's, because it also ends with similar to the intro. There's kind of just nothing. So I don't hold that against the song, but
I wish it were. I wish it were like. The thing for me about this song is that it reminded me of other jammy instrumental songs that the Allman Brothers have done. That it doesn't like. I just like Hot. I feel like Hot Lana is an extended version of what this song could have been. I guess that 3 minute chunk in the middle, or toward the 2/3, I feel like is done better in a few of their other songs. So I don't know.
When it comes to the instrumentals, I'm like, you guys are just too lazy to write words, aren't you? Is that it? You're too hopped up on goofballs, and I know they were in rehab during the recording of the album. I don't want to diminish addiction by any means. No, but you will say, Jacob, don't you like jazz? This is like jazz. Well, I'm a hypocrite, okay? But that's how I could justify where the instrumentals are in my. It's not really a justification. Track 3 is Melissa. And when I said I didn't know any of the tracks, I'm sure I've heard Melissa. I'm sure of it. I think it was like in one of those hits of this. When was this album recorded again? 70s?
72, I think, is when it came
72.
out.
Probably on one of
Something
those
like that.
K-Tel CDs they'd sell on TV. Because I remember hearing like, "Oh, sweet Melissa." Oh, and that's the only part of the song I knew. Yeah. Yep. Again, this is just an excuse for me to sing this whole video thing. It's a really pretty song. I like it when they mix the acoustics with the electric guitars. They do that a few tracks. Maybe this is one of those, right? Or am I getting ahead of myself? I've been listening to too much music.
It's very acoustic. A little
very acoustic.
Okay.
Yeah. Piano.
That's almost ballad is kind of one of the things I wrote.
Ballad. Yeah. Piano, organ.
Yep.
It's my 4. It's not in my top 3. It's not
4.
my number 2.
Yep.
So it's pretty high up there. It's a very pretty song.
It's number 6 for me.
Oh.
Which is interesting. It kept moving down my list as I was kind of adjusting my list over the listening period. Actually, I think it started first at 6, but then I was like, no, it's better than that. And I moved it up, but then I just kept moving it back down. I don't know. It's a good song. I never skip it. It's not one that I would ever, go past, but I think I like it in spirit more than in listening. I like the idea that it's Greg singing one of Dwayne's favorite songs. I like the almost ballad-like. It's very almost. I think I read that that Greg was thinking about using it in some of his solo work, which makes sense, in context. So, good song, just not one that I think there's better stuff on there. And I will say this: if we're doing women's first names, Melissa versus Jessica, I'm a Jessica guy.
Is that an Allman Brothers song?
Yes. Instrumental.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. I think you'd like that one.
Okay.
Give that one a
All
shot.
right.
So I like Jessica too, but I wouldn't say that I like it better than Melissa, because one of the things I love most about this band is Greg Allman's voice. Nobody talks about how great of a singer he is. Everybody talks about how great a guitarist Dickie Betts is, right? Mm-hmm. Because he's a thing of legend. Mm-hmm. Obviously, Dwayne Allman on the slide guitar before he passed. But Greg Allman, his keyboard skills and his singing ability are worldly. He is, for me, like the absolute superstar. And I like how you brought up the history of the song, Melissa. He had written it. Dwayne had loved it. He didn't think it was like macho enough to put on an album. He, just a little love ballad. But I absolutely love it. It's a top 3 for me. I play in a group of one of the groups that I play in is actually kind of it's not an all-star band because we're all a bunch of losers, but it's a group that is comprised of musicians from other groups in town, and they're all a lot more talented than I am. But one of the guitarists, his girlfriend is Melissa, and she owns a bar in town actually. And for her birthday party, we played Melissa. So I got to play the Greg Allman, organ part and switching between piano and organ. And I had a greater appreciation for the song having played it. Because it's not just a ballad with like 3 or 4 chords. There's a lot of complicated changes in the song if you listen to the underlying chordal structure of it. So for that, being so beautiful and having complexity within the melodic sequence of the song, it's a top 3 for me. And yeah, I mean, I've told Jacob this before. I'm not a big ballad guy, or as I've referred to them as softies. I like rockers, but I can't deny how beautiful this song is. So it's top 3
I like one.
for me.
I like one point you brought up about showing range. I think you didn't quite say it, but I think that in the inclusion of this song, I think goes off to show the range of the band as a whole.
I mean, just look at the first 3 songs, and maybe that's why I like track number 2 better than you guys. You get 3 completely different styles of music in the first 3 songs. It's like the hodgepodge of musical genres in the first 3 tracks.
All right, here comes the track. I don't even know how to describe. The 2 of you who own vinyl records of this.
Yes.
What side is this song on?
Sides.
That's the
2
catch.
and 4.
2 and 4. So they assume you have. Why is it 2 and 4?
You got time on your hands. Why not
2 and 3? Because I get it that they want it so you can have it if you have 2 turntables that you could just go to the song, right?
I'll take a stab at this.
Okay.
Sometimes
I didn't say the name of the song.
Right. Sometimes, and I won't even speak on the song here. I'll just talk about why they put it on tracks sides 2 and 4 as opposed to sides 3 and 4 or 2 and 3. Some LPs, double LPs, they would put a longer work where they would use just it's on side 1 and then you flip it, it's on side 2, and then side 3 and 4. The second disc is a completely different statement. But like the Who's Tommy, for example, does the same thing. You've got the first disc is sides 1 and 3, and the second disc is sides 1 and 4, and the second disc is sides 2 and 3. It's just weird how they went about that, and I don't know exactly why they did that with Mountain Jam. I do know, listening to Mountain Jam either by CD or by streaming, they have it as just one continuous 33 minutes, 30-second song. And I think that's the best way to consume it, because when you have to flip the album over or, in this case, change the actual disc, it breaks the flow of it. But I won't give you a rating for it yet because it's not my turn. I just talked a lot about the last song.
Well, I will say, just to add on, because I think everything that you said is right on. I think one other way to look at it is if you look at Eat a Peach as almost 2 separate albums. You've got 2 separate side 1s, so to speak, with Ain't Wasting Time, La Breres, and Melissa, and then Mountain Jam. And then you've got a whole nother album that's One Way Out, Trouble No More, Stand Back, Blue Sky, Little Martha, and Mountain Jam. So I think that's potentially one of the other reasons why they, yeah, exactly.
Huh. And actually, I'm only giving the partial title. It's like Mountain Jam theme from Mountain Place, or what does it say it on your guys' copy?
Yeah, what is it? It's a theme from First There Is a Mountain.
Is that like a movie, or does anyone know what the heck that
It's
is?
a song. It's in Wikipedia. I wish I had it pulled up right now, but it's a song. First, there is a mountain that the beginning of Mountain Jam, they're riffing on, they're jamming on the theme from that song.
Gotcha. That makes
Which
sense.
I had no
'Cause
idea until I recently, until I looked it up for this.
Because usually I'm used to it whenever it says theme, it's like theme from a summer play. It's for
Mm-hmm.
another work of art or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I can't read that.
Mm-hmm.
Mountain.
You have this in yours, Russ?
I don't have
this,
it.
Yeah, this was actually pretty. I think this is actually the rarest part of the album. That it's just a track sheet. It's not even a lyric sheet. It's included in the album, and this is an original press, 1972. And yeah, it says Mountain Jam. That's all this one says.
Oh,
did you notice
okay.
that
On
this
streaming, it's given a subtitle. Maybe that's for legal reasons. I don't know.
Yeah, I never knew it had a subtitle. And the funny thing is, it's credited to Donovan as the number one artist. And I tried looking this up.
Yep, that's the artist of, what's it called? First There Is a Mountain.
Okay.
So I'm thinking maybe, and I could be wrong on this, maybe Donovan had written a song and they adopted it into this jam, and Donovan got, like, his publishers heard about it, like, oh, you better get some credit for this song. But he had nothing to do with the collaboration of this jam.
Correct. Yep.
All right. Well, we've established it's a really long song. Because I don't think it's a great. I mean, again, this is where I check out a little bit. Whenever I'm at a concert and it just becomes one of these long things, maybe it's because I'm too sober, but I check out. I'm just like, just get to the next song already. And so I've probably listened to this album a dozen times or whatever to prepare for this. And I've probably listened to Mountain Jam 4 times in its entirety. And I've never found a hook or anything that really, or even a good groove. Some of the other songs have a groove. Matt, maybe there's, and maybe I'm just not listening careful enough.
I can give you some timestamps, Jacob. I put in some timestamps.
Okay.
So
okay.
22 minutes and 14 seconds starts a really good one. And then another one at 26 minutes. So I think that's another really good one.
And that's probably where my brain is already zoned out and I'm just mowing
totally
along.
Understandable.
But because of the audacity of putting that long of a track on an album, it's not the bottom. It's my number 8. So for me.
Okay.
Number 5 for you?
For me, this is number 4. For me, this is number 4. What I love to be able to transition from what you just said about the audacity of putting this on a studio album, but not just putting on a studio, putting it in the middle of a studio album. That's a 35-minute instrumental live jam in the middle of a studio album. And I think audacity is the perfect word for it. I absolutely love it. I think there is some stamina required to really enjoy a song like this. And that's not to say anything about people who don't. I just mean that I think there's a certain type of person who can really stick with this kind of music. One of the reasons why I like this song so much is that I've just, over the course of my life, I've had a few transcendental experiences linked up with this song where time was, put on hold for a little while. And so that's one of the things that connects deeply for me with this song. There's just a few different tunes, a few different melodies in the song that can really fire up some neurons that bring up some real formative memories for me. And so, big fan of the song. And I really think audacity, like I already said, is kind of the perfect word for what they did to this song, just to stick it right in the middle and say, here it is. Like, you're either committed to this or you're not, which brings us back to the conversation we had about the vinyl, how they gave people a break originally. Hey, you can go to side 3 and then come back to this later, but now, like you pointed out, Jacob, it's 35 minutes or bust. That's it. You can't queue up the second half of a song in Spotify, I don't think.
Yeah. So before I go to Matt, there's an anecdote. And AJ kind of shared it with us off air. You might remember it, Matt. But we had a colleague who discovered that this song was available on the jukebox at our local gin joint when I used to work with AJ. And it was only $1. So for bang for your buck, it didn't get any better than Mountain Jam. So this guy always had the jukebox that had the app or whatever. So he would always cue it up, and usually there's no reaction from the bar until the drums kick in, which is about halfway in, and it's a long drum break, and that's usually when people's patience start to be like, what the hell is this? And we found out then is like there is, if you put in $2, you can skip a song midway through, and that's when people started to do this. And by AJ's recollection, they eventually begged the bartender to get it off the jukebox. So that's how I knew Mountain Jam, but I never listened to it outside of a bar setting before you picked this record. Where is it ranked for you, Matt?
All right,
Mr.
So before
Fish.
I tell you, right, and I like how Russ brought up, like, you have to have a certain amount of stamina. You have to be a certain kind of music consumer to sit through a song of this length, and I am that kind of person. I can listen to Tales of Topographic Oceans from Yes. I can listen to Grateful Dead, Dark Star, and St. Stephen's that are equal length songs. I've been to many Widespread Panic, String Cheese Incident, Fish shows where you have sometimes even a 45, 50-minute continuous piece of music. I can do that. I can sit at a symphony and listen to Mahler's, Seventh Symphony completely played through. So I don't hate this song. I just think it's, and I understand why it's on here, and I'll get to that in a second. It's number 9 for me. And I enjoyed it the first time I listened to it. I enjoyed it other times that I've listened to it. But listening to it for its own merits, yes, there are some certain highlights. Some great soloing from Greg Allman, Dickie Betts, Dwayne Allman. My favorite solo is actually Barry Oakley's bass solo, where he does all the harmonics and stuff like that and the chords. It's a fantastic bass solo. Don't like drum solos. Don't need them. When you're at a concert, you can appreciate them a little bit more. But if I'm listening to this on headphones biking, I don't need to listen to a 5-minute drum solo. And it's cool. They're doing the two drummers are doing the thing back and forth, just like Mickey Hart and Bill Kreutzmann and the Grateful Dead. I like it. I appreciate it. I respect it. But if I'm just going to sit down and consume this album for pure enjoyment, I'm skipping that song. I don't find it interesting enough. I think it was an amazing testament to how fantastic this band is and how musical they are and talented they are, that they were able to lay, because most live albums are phony. You might have a live drum track or a live vocal, but they go into the studio and they touched up. I think this is a legitimate live hit record. Here it is. This is what we did. Now, they did do this song multiple times. I don't know if you've heard the version of Mountain Jam on the second disc of the Fillmore concerts, and a lot of the live tracks are actually they played multiple nights at the Fillmore when Dwayne was still alive in 1971, and this is a different take. This is a 33 and 47 minute take, whereas this one is 33 and 38 seconds.
I believe one's from spring and one's from fall. I think I read.
Right, and they're different enough, but it's, I don't know which one I prefer. That's why I brought this out, because there's other tracks that we'll talk about later that are also on this. But yeah, I guess just for the sake of, it's a commitment. It's as long as the album that Jacob and I reviewed last week. It's longer than the 12-song album that we reviewed last week. And I like every song on this album, Russ. So it's not that I'm hating on it, putting it number 9. I mean, this is not a song that I dislike. It's just a song that I have to be in a very special mood. I have to be in a very specific time to want to devote that much time to listen to it, because I could listen to a whole album in that span. So number 9 for me.
My last thing I want to say, my one challenge to you two: skip to 22 minutes from now on. Just give that a try.
Yeah, I know the song pretty well. Yeah, and I know the where you would, instead of skipping, and that's fair, Rust. Instead of skipping,
it cuts
the song altogether,
and
go for the meat and potatoes of the song, and then skip the fat of the song.
I'm going to start trying that with number 2.
Please,
start skipping the 3 minutes. Yep,
I always do.
Yep,
I always do.
So the other tracks we have are all crammed onto one side, if I'm understanding this record right. Including a trio of what I would call blues rock tunes, and maybe you would call them southern rock tunes. I'm still kind of fuzzy on if there is a distinction. The first one being One Way Out, which is my favorite of the 3. It is in my top 3. I just like the scenario set up in this one, and this is a live recording. I remember.
Yes.
But the idea of like, there's one way out, and it might be your man, so I don't know what to do, is kind of creates a little movie in my head, which I always enjoy when that happens.
All right, so these two back-to-back live songs, and not including Mountain Jam, they're very similar, obviously, right? I actually don't prefer this one as much as the next one. I have this one at number 6. Excuse me, number 7. I have this one at number 7. I actually prefer the One Way Out on the Fillmore concerts better than. And by the way, if you're not familiar with this album, this is generally considered their definitive statement. This is Duane Allman in all of his glory. Now, Duane Allman does play on the live cuts on Eat a Peach, but for my money, I mean, this is the Allman Brothers at their peak. You can't replace Duane Allman. You know, Dickie Betts is a phenomenal guitarist, more technical than Duane for sure, but, you know, everybody knows Statesboro Blues. Everybody knows Whipping Post. Those are the two songs that get all of the fanfare, but I think I like the One Way Out version on here better. It's perfectly fine on here, but yeah, you're right, Jacob. I wouldn't even call this Southern rock. This sounds like blues to me, right? This sounds like John Lee Hooker or Muddy Waters or.
So this is a cover of a blues song.
Yeah.
So Sonny Boy, I don't know this artist. I just found it on Wikipedia, but Sonny Boy Williamson II. So it's a blues track, worth listening to. I went and gave it a listen on Spotify. It's good. It's very harmonica heavy, the original. So I thought that was cool, and I thought it was cool how. You know, the band is able to kind of capture that somehow in this in the song. So I had it at number 5. I feel I had a question mark after this, so it's not a statement, but it's a thought. Is this the most macro representative on the album? I feel like this, if someone were to say on the album, because now I have it at number 5, it's not even in my top 3. But if someone were to say, which of the songs of these 9 could I listen to right now and get a good feel for who the Allman Brothers are, right? Well, I mean, how long is the song? One Way Out. It's only 5 minutes. So for me, I feel like this would be the easiest, most digestible. So you want to know who the Allmans are from this album specifically. I'm likely giving them One Way Out. You know, it's in the running there. I really feel like it showcases the talent of the band, but also, or not also, but especially Greg's voice. I thought the vocals on this were great. I think just like you were saying, Jacob, I think it's his vocals that really, not just the lyrics, but the way he sings them really creates that, you know, that tension for you. So One Way Out.
Only One Way Out. All right. The next, I also consider this a bluesy one, Trouble No More. We know it's higher on Matt's list. For me, it just the way I said, the second half of my list doesn't make a ton of sense. It's my number 7, even though I do like that. But lyrically, like nothing sticks with me or anything with the song structure besides that. I don't know what you would call that. Is it a bass line? Is it a groove? I'm looking at the resident
groove.
musician.
Sure, I'd call it a groove.
It's a groove. I'll just call it a groove.
I mean, I don't know. That's what I'd call it.
Okay.
It's a groove.
I'm always worried I'm going to use the wrong term. So it's my number 7, and most of these songs I think are pretty good. So you know it's pretty even. So even though I have it low, there's only so many tracks on the record. So 9.
Totally agree. I also had it number 7. My notes were, it's easy to sing along to, but it doesn't move the needle much for me. It's easy to groove, but when I'm done, it's not very filling, right? It doesn't sate me, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Empty calories.
I'm waiting
Mr.
for
Jensen?
Matt.
I just have it right above one Way Out. I could have flipped a coin on these two. I really put them at the same level. I have this at number 6. Once again, I prefer it on here.
That brings up one thing sorry. Go ahead.
This song reminds me of Green Onions by Booker T and the MGs. It just gives me that vibe, and I love Green Onions. I prefer that over this song, but it's a similar song to One Way Out. Solid vocals from Greg, solid slide guitar from Duane. I mean, amazing slide. I shouldn't say that. Amazing slide guitar from Duane. That guy really was in his element when he was playing live. great lead riffs by Dickie Betts, great bass playing by Barry Oak. I mean, Butch Trucks. These guys are consummate professionals, you know, as strung out as they were and as impoverished as they were growing up, you know, in the South. These guys defied the odds. I mean, you can be messed up, you can have no musical education or training whatsoever, be a total ruffian, and you can have such command of your instrument and your vocals. And these two blues songs, I think, just show like the powerhouse that this band was. And they're 23, 24 years old. Crazy. 22 years old.
The final of what I call the trio of blues rock songs is the one that's in the studio, I believe. It's not from the Fillmore. Stand Back. Anyone want to talk about Stand Back?
So for me, Stand Back, I didn't even know what this song was called. I didn't know the title of it. It's I listened to it again. I was like, oh yeah, I know this one, but it's just kind of nodding along with it. Yeah, good song, whatever. But it just didn't do enough for me. I have it ranked number 8, but I think like we've all said, not because I think it's a bad song, but only because we're ranking the tracks that are available. And so, yeah, I don't think maybe if it was live, I would like it. You know, it just felt kind of like all of a sudden we've got, you know, we're really rocking with these live tracks. And now it's this one from the studio that can't quite match the energy, can't quite match the vibe of the last two. And yeah, it was honestly, I could have told you the track number and name all the way through the album. And at number 7, I would have been like, what's that one called?
This is one that was at the bottom of my list for a long time. And then just something like the last time I listened to it, I liked the part, I guess maybe you'd call it a bridge when it's talking about the ace of, like throwing out the ace of spades. And I'm like, and go down slow. I like the vocals of this so much that, again, I love to sing. Yeah. I don't know why I don't just have a podcast where I'm, again, I don't play an instrument, so I guess I would just be batting along, singing. This one, maybe it's more of a Southern, maybe this is where the delineation between Southern rock and blues rock is. Okay. Because it has a decent groove, but the vocals, I think, are more into the Southern rock vein. I'm going to teach myself eventually, because Southern rock is another thing. With jam bands, I was just like, not my thing. But yeah. I like it. It was my 5. Matt?
My 5 as well. I put it ahead of those two live blues songs because you just nailed it, man. That bridge kicks so much ass. Now, the opening section of the song is kind of cool, too. It's very Billy Preston-esque with the... he's playing a Wurlitzer, actually. Greg Allman's playing a Wurlitzer. It's either that or it's a Fender Rhodes. I think it's a Wurlitzer because it has a little bit more bite when he hits the keys. But there's also overlaying of organ. And one of the cool things about this song, I don't know if you guys know this, so it is a studio track, but this one has Dwayne on it. They recorded this studio track with Dwayne, whereas all of the other studio tracks, except for Little Martha, have no Dwayne Allman. The only Dwayne Allman you hear on these are the live tracks, except for Little Martha and Blue Sky has Dwayne on it as well. But these last 3 songs are the only 3 studio songs with Dwayne on it. So I bump it up for that too. That you have, you know, the master of the slide guitar on this song. But yeah, that bridge is killer. And Greg Allman's voice, I know I'm sounding so freaking redundant here. He is one of maybe the most underrated singer. Nobody talks about how great Greg Allman's voice is. They talk about the guitar virtuosity of Dickie Betts and Dwayne Allman. But Greg Allman's voice, I mean, I think it is the pinnacle of Southern rock singing. I put it over Ronnie Van Zant of Leonard Skinner, who also is, you know, considered a great vocalist. Number 5.
I agree, Jensen.
So in the past, or we've established that the second to last track can often be the worst on an album, is traditionally the worst on the album. I don't feel it's going to be the case on this episode. Blue Sky. Who wants to start off the conversation about Blue Sky?
I go. It's in my top 3.
Yep, same here.
So it's in my top 3, so we'll wait on it. Wait on the ranking. But it's such an easy song to like, I think. It just it feels good to listen to. There's just so many different good sounds coming. I don't know a word besides good. It just feels wholesome or something. And I just really, for me, as you can see with my rankings, the way, music speaks to me in a very memory connected kind of way, life connected. And so Blue Sky for me was the soundtrack to that summer that I talked about that I spent in Denver. My now wife was at the time up in the mountains that summer. And so I spent every weekend driving up in the mountains to see her and, listening to like this album, particularly, but this song specifically, really takes me back to those times of, here I am driving around in the mountains, listening to a song called Blue Sky in the summer. Come on, so yeah. It's like, it is part of my DNA at this point. So yeah, that song's top 3 for me.
I have the same. I also my notes just say feel good. It's a feel good. It's just a pretty folk song. Russ, you said earlier that a track represented. Again, my knowledge of the Allman Brothers begins and ends on this album, but this one I think is the best mix of songcraft. Like, it's got a great chorus, good vocals, verses, and there's a good jam in there too. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, this is the total package. Mm-hmm. And it's just a pretty feel-good folk song. So it's in my top 3 as well. Mr. Contrarian?
I'm not going to be too contrarian on this. And this is the first time I think that the penultimate track hasn't gotten DFL for me. Dead last, right? This is just bubbling under my top 3. I have it as number 4. And the knock I have against it, so Dickie Betts does not have the vocal prowess of Greg Allman. Not even close. He's not fit to hold a can. I don't hate his voice. I mean, obviously Dickie Betts sings I Was Born a Ramblin' Man, which is probably their biggest hit of all time, right?
Oh, that was that.
So, unfortunately, in my opinion, I don't know if we have to go down that road, but I would just real quick, if you don't mind, Jacob, when you talked about how potentially this would be the song to share with someone, in my opinion, I wouldn't, simply because it's not Greg. And it's the same reason, exactly. And same thing for me with Ramblin' Man. Like, and Ramblin' Man plays a big role in one of my absolute favorite movies, Big Fish. But I'm not a huge Ramblin' Man fan. And I think because I don't feel, it feels like a diversion to me from who the Allman Brothers are, as opposed to, core to their essence kind of thing. Anyway, back to your point.
Oh, that's a good point.
So yeah, it's number 4 for me. I love the interplay of the guitars between Dickie and Dwayne, and you've got, not only do you have great lead guitars, so not really a whole lot of slide in this song, but you got the acoustic and electric that make a nice mixture of tones. I really like that. Love the bass playing, of course, and you could say Barry Oakley is a very underrated bass player. Not a lot of keyboards in this song. Don't need keyboards in every song, but this is probably, this is probably the biggest hit on the album, I would say. I mean, Melissa maybe, but I think this one maybe is the bigger, the bigger hit that you would hear on like classic rock radio. So there's a little burnout factor there for me too, but no denying how great it is. It's number 4.
It's also interesting though, Matt, when you talk about, because I agree with you that I think this would be sales wise or listenership wise probably the biggest hit from the album, which you could say similarly about Ramblin' Man as well. So it's just interesting that those 2 Dickie Betts songs are really the radio hits, but for me they're I like them and I'll listen to them, but it's not something I'm going to go to necessarily. I do like Blue Sky, obviously.
Can I tell you, here's a hypothesis that I have. When I hear Dickie Betts sing, the Allman Brothers really bring out the Southern rock sound. He's got more of a Southern voice, whereas Greg has more of a soulful, bluesy Stevie Ray Vaughan. I'm sure his voice, really inspired Stevie Ray Vaughan. That blue-eyed, really inspirational Van Morrison style vocals. And that's more my cup of tea, because I'm more of a blues rock guy than I am a country rock guy. And I think, the fan base of the Allmans tends to be maybe more of on the country side than the blues side, or the southern side. So maybe that's his voice may be more appealing to them because it has more of a twang to it.
Yeah, good points.
Closing out the album, we have Little Martha, which I believe is a tribute to Dwayne. Another pretty song, but another instrumental. It's hard to to bash against it, but it's just number 6 because I like a lot of the other, or 5 of the other songs more for me. But at least it starts. It's an instrumental that gets going fairly early on. So I think it might be my highest ranking of the instrumentals. It is. So
this is top 3 for me.
Oh.
This is Dwayne only, and Gentle. Or is it not? Am I wrong about that?
I think it's Dwayne and Dickie together.
Oh, okay. Dwayne heavy maybe is the way I should put it. But Gentle is the note that I wrote about it. I think the other thing that I like about it is that it's fairly quick and to the point. It feels like they have something they want to say with these specific instruments, and they go ahead and say it. And I think you said that a little bit, Jacob, where they kind of get to it early on in this song specifically. And so, yeah, I like it. I wish it wasn't the last song on the album. Honestly, I wish this was number 2.
It makes sense to me as a last track, though.
Mm-hmm.
It's the goodbye. If you're looking at it as an experience. I mean, if you're not doing your whole mountain jam and then it starts into another record thing. That's like I could see this being an instrumental if they had no other instrumentals on the album. If they got rid of Mountain Jam, this was a single disc, and they maybe got rid of L'Esprit or Libre. It would still make sense because you hear that all the time in albums where they save the one instrumental for the just. And normally too, that's like the total throwaway track, but this is a good one.
Well, yeah, so I guess maybe that's what I'm saying is that this one is better than just a little nightcap, But I think this is a song that doesn't serve that role, I think it's a good song. And I know you're not saying it isn't, but I just think it really holds up on its own.
Where's it rank for you, Matt?
Number 8. But before I get into why it's number 8, because I really do like the song. Like I said, I even like Mountain Jam. I just had to go somewhere. Going back to the Le Bleu in A minor, I can only picture people from Texas being like, "What's up with that Les Brers and a minor song? What the hell is up with that?"
A minor. Oh, that's a dirty. Ooh.
Yeah.
Poor Les.
I'm not going to pronounce it like no goofy Frenchman thing. It's Les Brers as far as I'm concerned. All right. But anyway, I think this is a perfect, it's a Dwayne and Dickie duet basically, and I think it's a great passing of the torch. It's a tribute to Dwayne. He's dead, but Dickie will keep the fire going. And the Allman Brothers went on to be super successful. For the rest of the 70s, 80s, 90s. I mean, people like. Thank God for the Allman Brothers, because we wouldn't have people like Warren Haynes. And which of course is Government Mule, and they're going strong as ever right now. You wouldn't have a bunch of jam bands like Widespread Panic. I mean, it all comes down to this band. So Dickie Betts, kind of carrying that torch, kind of singing him off into the horizon, into heaven. And it is an emotional song, and it's absolutely beautiful, and I love it. But I thought about putting it ahead of Trouble No More and One Way Out. Sticking it ahead of that, just throwing all of the live tracks at the bottom, just because I'm ranking this as like a studio album, But I think I just like those ones just rock too hard for me not to. So yeah, this one was tough, but I ended up it being at number 8. Feel bad about saying that, particularly after your testimony on it, Russ, and how much it means to
Russ,
you.
as our guest, be the first to reveal your top 3.
All right, number 3, Little Martha. Number 2 was Blue Sky, and number 1 is the first track in the album, Ain't Wasting Time No More.
We had some overlap. Number 3, One Way Out for me. Number 2 was Ain't Wasting Time No More. And number 1 was Blue Sky. I guess I didn't know it was such a big hit, or else I would have felt the need to be more edgy with my picks. But
you didn't know that,
honestly. Matt, top 3.
All right, number 3, Melissa. I'm shocked that I thought for sure that would be you guys' like number 2 or number 1. I thought I was putting that kind of low. Love that song. Number 2, the French song Le Bras. in A minor. Love it, love it, love it, love it. And number one, just like Bob Russ from last season. Ain't wasting time no more. So yeah, the first 3 tracks, that's how I rank them: 1, 2, and 3.
Beautiful. So we've recorded our own little mountain jam here, probably more so. We should get to the spinning wheel from pickerwheel.com.
Oh boy, what is this?
It says sponsored by Peacock, but it's not a sponsor. So let's spin and see what we got here. See if I can cover it. Get rid of Peacock there. Oh, the suspense is killing me. Oh, song that should be cut. Ooh,
I have to cut one from the album?
You have to cut something from the album. And in the past, we've tried to agree and come to a consensus, thinking it would stir debate.
Oh,
but I don't know. I think we're gonna have some holdouts here. I would cut Mountain Jam. I think it would be a good, solid.
I can't believe you two.
Single side record, and then release it as its own recording. Like, it's a momentum killer. I mean, I get it, but I don't know. Is there other than they just wanted more Dwayne?
I just don't think that this album would be this album without that track. Like it or love it, I think you really captured it, Rosdale. This is an audacious album. I really think so. And I think part of it is having 33 minutes of jamming out right in the middle of it. I think that's part of what makes these guys who they are. Are you telling me, look at this thing.
Okay, they're not modest. Exactly. I get it, because if you're gonna bring up this record to somebody, like just someone else who knows the record, hey, it's like, hey, eat a Pete, blah blah blah. Yep. The conversation, probably one of the first thing is Mountain Jam, and whether even if you
When's
don't.
the last time you listened to the whole thing, right? Or what's your favorite part? There's just like so much there to sink your teeth into. I think it makes it part. Yeah, it needs to be there.
Is the reasoning for having it be half live and half studios because Dwayne died and they needed to come up with a record? Okay.
Well, I think that's part of it. I think that's a part of it, but I also think it's a sign. It's part of the times. I think that's exactly that. Fillmore did so well, and Fillmore showcased who they are, and like we've been talking about, they are a live band. And so I think that they were like, wow, everybody loves these live tracks. Let's literally throw some more songs from those concerts into this album. It wasn't even like they're like, oh, let's keep making live albums. They're just like, let's just take more of the Fillmore stuff and throw it in this one. And Mountain Jam is one of their favorite songs. That was one of their favorite songs to play live. What I read again on Wikipedia or someplace was that they thought this was kind of a mediocre recording of it. But they love that song. So I'm fighting pretty hard for my fourth ranked song here.
I'm okay without cutting it, because these 2 albums did nothing in terms of sales. Great albums. Idlewild South and Brothers and Sisters, great studio albums. But it wasn't until this guy, overnight they became rich. They had no idea, and even the Capricorn, their label, which is kind of a small label, didn't have a lot of expectations for this. It's like, well, let's just release. You guys obviously draw a crowd. People come to your shows, but we're not selling your records. And then they released this, and overnight they became, successful. So I think they had to continue the formula here. So half and half, more or less, right?
Could you cut out half of the song? Would you allow that if it just took up one side of a double record?
Well, can I give you my vote?
Yeah, give your vote.
I think
one of the blues tracks, I'm guessing.
One of the blues tracks, just because there's that redundancy to it. And I don't care which one, but I think, I prefer Trouble No More, but I could also see them kicking out one way out, just because it's longer, and it's like you just got done listening to a 33-minute live version, and now we're going right into a 5-minute live blues song, and so I don't know.
6
Well,
or
you're telling
7
me
for
it's
me.
on there are other recordings of it that were released. I mean, I know I'm the one who had it highest ranked, but that's where my gut goes. If what's actually redundant on the album, it's probably one of the 2 blues tracks. Yeah.
Yep.
And
I could
as
get
much
rid
as
of
I was
6
then
or
gonna
7.
I was then gonna pivot to Les Braces, but I didn't think Matt would move on that. So yeah, I'm good with losing. Not that this actually has any weight to it. No genie is going to go and remove it. No Way Out or One Way Out or One Way Out. If you're okay with that, Russ.
I would have trouble with that. I don't mean to make this, a 2-hour-long show, but I wouldn't want to lose One Way Out. I'd be okay with Trouble No More or Stand Back. Those would be the 2 that I'd be okay with. Not both of them, but one or the other.
Yeah.
But One Way Out for me is One Way Out for me is a tier above Trouble No More. So I'd be
I'll say
okay
Trouble
losing
No More.
Trouble No
I'm good
More.
with that. Yeah.
You could,
because that was
I'd be
my
all
number
right with
7.
I'd be all right with you kicking out Stand Back too. As much as I love that bridge, it's compared to Ain't Wasting Time No More. So I kind of look at those 2 songs as similar, like, whereas Ain't Wasting Time No More is just so much better than that song.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're both studio bluesy songs, but I'd be all right if you wanted. So Trouble No More or Stand Back, I'm fine with either one. What do you think? Which one do we kick out?
I had Trouble No More lower, so that'd be my vote.
They were 7 and 8 for me.
Okay. Well, let's just say Trouble No More, just to get moving. But now the audience knows where it doesn't have any. We don't have to actually come to a consensus. But that was good debate. I appreciated that. I can't imagine anybody watched this episode hadn't heard the record. But if you haven't, give it a listen. It's. I don't think we've had really an album I would not recommend so far on the show. Eventually, we'll get there. I know we will. I can guarantee we will. But this one's a good one, Russ. Thanks for forcing me to have to listen to it.
Hey, that was fun. Thanks for having me. Love getting this down off the wall so I can take a look at it a little bit more. And it was nice to have an album to focus on the last few weeks. Same, Matt, while I was out riding bikes. So this one was a good soundtrack for anything really, for life, but especially for cycling.
All right. Thank you all. Say bye-bye.
See ya. Thanks, guys.